Hey there, questers. We're continuing our series of breaking down the solutions to the monolith quests. Today we're going to break down the solutions to quest number 2, challenges 4 and 5. So let's start with number 4. So again, we start with a tweet from Artifact Studios for our first clue. They wrote, in Ben's pod, n times the string of numbers plus another large string of numbers. And then we have this picture with a bunch of lines on it. There's also two dots with shaded circles around it, and not else much going on. One other thing that there is to notice is that another theme is n is probably going to need a digit to complete the solution, as in the other ones. And if you count the open spaces, we actually have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which has been a common theme. So it could be thought potentially that each of these spaces can represent a number 0 through 9. And one little clue that we got down here was a kind of stock chart emoji going up. And then in Ben's pod, Ben's actually one of the founders of Artifact, and you can actually go to his space pod, and it's literally named Ben's pod. So let's head there right now. So Ben's pod, and in here there's a lot going on. He's got a lot of his cool stuff all over the place, and there's a lot of searching. But if you go to the bed here, there's actually a very just a squiggle here that looks odd in itself. But if you remember those two dots and shaded areas in the initial clue that we got, they were kind of in similar positions of on the left kind of center there where the green is, and then a little higher all the way on the right there, so where that purple ends. So again, similar to the last challenge, or 2 challenges ago, where we had to overlay the numbers and squares over a picture of the monolith. If you overlay this squiggle over the initial clue, you'll get something that looks like it fits perfectly, like this. So again, overlaying that squiggle over the initial clue perfectly lines up with these first 2 dots that we were given as starting reference points. And as you can see, those are starting reference points, but every change of direction leads to another kind of dot if you replicate that dot in shaded area. And again, like I counted, there was 0 through 9 or 10 different spaces here. And the upward stock chart emoji that we got kind of told us that it starts from the bottom up. So 0 to 9, instead of 0 to 9 top to bottom, it's bottom and up. So using this as reference, this first dot that they gave us is actually a 5. And then if you follow it where the change of direction is, you get 6, 2, 6, 3, 8, 5, 7, 1, 7, 1, 6. So this string of numbers at the top represents where the change of directions are, and this is the digit that we needed to replace the first missing variable in the formula. So if you replace that digit, that full long number, with the n that we were missing, you add it into the formula and you work that math out, you get a string of 19 numbers starting with 1, 3 that leads to an, as you guessed it, old Artifact Studios tweet. And here it is, and this was the solution. So once it was found, Artifact tweeted out that the challenge was completed, and that's challenge number 4 of quest 2. So that one was a little shorter, but then we'll hop right into challenge number 5 here for quest 2. So this starts challenge number 5. This was the initial clue that was given out. Wisdom unfolds from the deep digging mind, rearranges ideas, connects each pair, completes patterns from disparate parts, and leaves no holes. And then we have another formula. So the formula kind of has been, with a variable, has been a pattern here. So we have a die times 10 minus this long string of digits. We also have some follow-up clues of wise people know to look outside the box. Those who break things apart and put them back together again gain wisdom and understanding from which truth unfolds. There's a couple more clues that we'll revisit in a little bit. And so the formula was a continuing clue through quest 2, and another continuing piece, especially from the last one, was that some of the clues were in our loot pods or space pods or in other space pods, as it was in Ben's in the last challenge. But for this one, it was kind of difficult to find. But in the deep digging mine was a clue, is that in your loot pod, when you are able to kind of freely float around and add items to it, you can go kind of out of bounds. And in that mode, if you go below the ground, there was actually a dice that appeared below the ground of the loot pod, as we have a ambulance drive by. But I was going to show you that live on Cyber in my loot pod, but the dice is actually gone, so just have to believe that it was there. So if you went below the plane of fields, below the floor, digging as you were, there was a small dice that was located here under the ground, and it looked kind of like this. So it was a die, and it also had some interesting markings on each of the sides as well, like lines, 1 lines, 2 lines, 3 lines, and then some squares, and I think there was a triangle as well. And just to give you a better idea, here's the kind of all sides of the die kind of stripped apart. So 1, 2, and 3 lines. There's some half squares, there's some triangles or half diamonds, but just additional weird signs that are on here. So the original clue kind of had unfolding and a lot of other kind of clues, but what the idea that we had to do here eventually is look back at some of these clues. So again, break things apart, put them back together. So kind of how we broke that dice apart. We're gonna have to put them back together. And this clue right here, there's 3 puzzle pieces in a 1, 2, and 3. So that 1, 2, and 3 were kind of lines that we saw or markings on the sides of the die. And so that's kind of one clue. And then further, even beyond that, shows us that there's a die that was kind of an original clue in the formula or the variable. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we know a die has 6 sides. And it's saying times 3. So that die has 6 sides, 3 times gets us these 3 puzzle pieces. And then it shows us the square and the diamond. So we saw the 1, 2, and 3 here, right? Of what the 1, 2, and 3 of those lines that we saw. And then also the square is if you take the half squares and combine them, you would get a square. And those half triangles, or those triangles or half diamonds, if you connect them, it would look like a full diamond. That gets us to n, which is the variable we're looking for. And then it also shows us this in the end of kind of that triangles completing to get the diamond and the half squares to get a full square. So these 3 clues kind of led us down a path where we saw that there's ways to line up and arrange those and unfold, if you were, as in the original clue, the die. And there's 3 ways actually. So the unfolding one is essentially unfolding it so that the 1 digit is always kind of completing between each side. So we start here. Here's the 1 kind of symbol line. It has to connect to the 1 on another one. This 3 has its 1 over here. So it connects here. The 1 again connects over here. This 1 connects here, and it connects down. So this has everything being connected by their 1 perfectly. So that's the way you kind of have to find that this is the only way to do that. If you did it any other way, it wouldn't work. The second way, and it's with all 2's connecting. So here's the 2 lines connecting, 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 and connecting. So this isn't easy to find. So essentially you would have to be spinning these and moving them all over to kind of find which way works out that each one can connect with their 2 lines and nothing is kind of left over or unused. And as you guess it, the third way would be unfolding it and connecting it with 3 lines. So there's your 3 lines connecting all the way across with these 3 lines. And so now we have 3 sets, right? So now these are the 1, 2, and 3 puzzle pieces from that follow-up clue that we got. But it still kind of leaves us in a bind. So the other follow-up clue there was with these squares and triangles, and it also gave us that clue of where the orange and the green were touching to complete. So if you use that in mind, we pretty much have to combine these together like Tetris pieces in a certain way. And this is it. So these circled places are where the clues that we had of the triangles being completed to make a diamond, and these two half squares being completed to make a square. And connected like this, now we have kind of one piece all together, where if you look at it a certain way, you can see that there's a way to read, there's a couple ways to read this, but the correct way is this is now the variable that we're missing, and the number is 1 4 6 5 4 2 3 5 3 1 1 2 5 6 2 3 6 4. So all of these read left to right from top to bottom makes a long number, and that is the variable we're looking for, just right here. So if you stick that back in where the die was to complete this formula, now we have this long string of number that we just found times 10 minus this long string of numbers, and we get, as you guessed it, a 19-digit number, which we can stick at the end of a Twitter URL, and it gives us a Artifact Studios tweet. So again, we got the challenge completed for this one. We were done with it, and that completes challenge number 5. So we've covered 4 and 5. We have one left in challenge number 6 for quest 2, and I will be covering that shortly. Again, give me a like and subscribe if you thought this was useful. Let me know if you have any questions, follow-ups, if anything was confusing, if I glossed over anything, or if you have any comments at all. Please just let me know, and I'll see you next time.